Welcome to the Shahed-136 data card video. If you want to understand why the modern battlefield has changed more in the last 3 years than in the previous 30, this is the platform that explains it. The Shahed-136 is not the most sophisticated weapon in anyone's arsenal. It is not fast. It is not stealthy. It does not carry a large warhead. And yet it has fundamentally altered the cost economics of air defense for every nation on Earth. That is a remarkable thing to say about a drone powered by what is essentially a lawn-mower engine, and every word of it is true. Let's start with what it is. The official Iranian designation is Shahed-136. The Russians, who now manufacture their own version in large numbers, call it the Geran-2, Geran-2. It is built by Iran's aircraft manufacturing industrial company, known as Shaheds, and it first appeared in confirmed combat use in September 2022 when Russia began deploying it against Ukrainian infrastructure. Since then it has been used in Ukraine, Yemen, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and against targets across the Middle East. If you have watched any news coverage of modern conflict in the last 2 years, you have seen this drone. The delta wing silhouette and the distinctive buzzing sound of the rear-mounted piston engine have become the defining visual and acoustic signatures of this era of warfare. Physically, it is not impressive on paper. 3.5 meters long. 2.5 meter wingspan. Approximately 200 kilograms total weight. A 40 to 50 kilogram high explosive warhead. A piston engine producing enough thrust to push it through the air at 185 kilometers per hour, about 115 miles per hour. Maximum range is approximately 2,500 kilometers one way. It is not coming back. Endurance is 10 to 12 hours depending on fuel load and flight profile. Operating altitude is typically 60 to 1,000 meters. It flies low, under radar coverage where possible, following terrain. The guidance system is GPS and INS, inertial navigation system, with pre-programmed waypoints loaded before launch. There is no control link in flight. No operator is steering it. No datalink can be jammed because there is no datalink to jam. Once it leaves the launch rack, it is fully autonomous, flying its programmed route to its programmed target, and that is it. Operator skill required to deploy one is low. You load the waypoints, you fire the rack, and you walk away. That accessibility is not a weakness. It is a feature. It means this weapon can be operated at scale by forces with minimal training, in large numbers, repeatedly, with no single point of failure that an adversary can target. Now let's talk about the cost, because this is where the Shahed-136 becomes the defining weapon of its era. Published figures have put the Shahed at $20,000 to $50,000 per unit. Those numbers are almost certainly wrong on the low end, and here is why that matters analytically. Most published estimates are based on analysis of Russian variant components, not actual Iranian production cost accounting. A British analyst who physically inspected captured components in October 2022 put the figure closer to $80,000. Russian domestic production of the Geran-2 in 2025, after significant design simplification and volume scaling, runs approximately $70,000 per unit. The most analytically honest range for current production is $50,000 to $150,000 depending on variant, producer, and configuration. The critical distinction that almost every news outlet gets wrong, and this is worth saying clearly, is the difference between Iranian production cost and Iranian export price to Russia. In 2022, Iran was selling assembly kits to Russia for approximately $193,000 to $375,000 per unit. That figure includes technology transfer costs. It is a contract price, not a manufacturing cost. Confusing those two numbers has generated enormous analytical confusion about the true economics of this weapon. Even at the high end of the honest cost range, $150,000 per unit, the Shahed-136 is devastating to defend against using conventional interceptors. The U.S. Navy burned approximately $780 million in interceptors against Houthi attacks through the end of 2024. Individual shots ranged from $1.5 million for an evolved Sea Sparrow to $4.3 million for an SM-6. against a target that costs $150,000. That cost-exchange ratio, anywhere from 10-1 to nearly 30-1 in the attacker's favor, is the defender's dilemma made concrete in real combat accounting. That is not a theoretical concern. That is a line item in the U.S. Navy's budget. The AGR-20 Falco we covered in an earlier video is the first credible answer to this problem. At $22,000 to $25,000 per round, it inverts the ratio in the defender's favor for the first time. But the Shahed-136 created the problem that the AGR-20 had to solve. Understanding one requires understanding the other. Now let's look at the countermeasure vulnerability profile, and this is where the Shahed-136 surprises most analysts. RF jamming risk is low. There is no active radio frequency link in flight. Nothing to jam. The autonomous GPS/INS guidance simply does not present a jamming surface during the attack run. GPS spoofing risk is moderate. The drone is GPS dependent for terminal navigation, which means spoofing is theoretically possible. Ukraine has demonstrated some GPS spoofing success against Shahed variants. However, the INS backup provides partial resistance, the drone degrades rather than fails cleanly under spoofing, and later variants show improved GNSS hardening. EMI and EMC attack risk is moderate. The electronics are commercial and military commercial grade, not hardened to MIL STD-461G but not entirely unprotected either. Russia has been progressively hardening the Geran-2 variants with each production batch as electronic warfare lessons accumulate from Ukraine. Laser-directed energy weapon risk is high. At 185 km per hour, the Shahed is slow enough that a laser system with sufficient dwell time can heat the airframe, damage control surfaces, or ignite the fuel. The predictable straight-line approach profile makes laser engagement geometry favorable for the defender. Kinetic intercept difficulty is moderate. The delta wing design produces a small radar cross-section. The piston engine produces a low infrared signature compared to a jet. The combination makes detection harder than you might expect for a relatively large and slow-moving platform. But it is not invisible. Ukraine intercepts over 80% of incoming Shaheds using a layered combination of fighters, ground-based air defense, and electronic attack. Overall vulnerability rating, moderate. That rating reflects the honest reality that this drone is not invulnerable. It can be killed. Ukraine kills them in large numbers every night. The strategic problem is not that any single Shahed cannot be intercepted. The strategic problem is that Iran can produce hundreds per week, Russia can produce hundreds per month, and the interceptors required to stop them cost 10 to 30 times more per shot. You can win every individual engagement and still lose the war of attrition. That asymmetry is the Shahed-136 IS true weapon. Not the 40-kilogram warhead. Not the 2,500-kilometer range. The cost. The cost is the weapon. Now let me give you my engineering read on something the data card does not fully capture, and that is the convergence argument. The Shahed-136 IS a cruise missile by every engineering definition I know. Autonomous navigation. Pre-programmed waypoints. GPS and INS guidance. Turbine-class range. One-way terminal attack profile. The only meaningful differences between a Shahed-136 and a first-generation Tomahawk are the warhead size, the terminal seeker sophistication, and the manufacturing cost. Remove the crew requirement, which was already gone on both platforms, and what you have left is a question of how much terminal precision you are willing to pay for. The Shahed answers that question with $50,000 and a GPS coordinate. The Tomahawk answers it with $2 million and an IIR seeker that recognizes the target's face. Both are cruise missiles. One costs 40 times more than the other. That cost difference is remaking every air defense budget on Earth right now. And it has a clone. In December 2025, the United States unveiled Lucas, the low-cost unmanned combat attack system built by SpectreWorks in Arizona. It is a reverse-engineered American Shahed at $35,000 per unit. Slightly smaller, lighter payload, more capable guidance. The weapon Iran built to threaten American allies has been turned around and deployed against Iranian infrastructure. On the same day Lucas first flew in combat, a Shahed-136 struck the U.S. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. The weapon and its American copy used in anger on the same day. That is a chapter in this book that writes itself. The full Shahed-136 data card is available at the link in the description. Download it, keep it, and we will see you on the next one.